just came back from Money 2020. I probably had like 80 meetings. I don't think there was a single one that didn't touch on stablecoin. I mean, lots going on in payment space, right? Cross-border payments becoming more and more real time. The rise of mobile wallets, the shift from cash to digital.
Every time I feel there's a lot of disruption, there's a lot more which comes around.
More disruption means more complexity. It is time that the regulators start thinking about stablecoin the same way they think about any regular currency, the same way they think about how they regulate money movement with money remittance licenses and cross-border payments.
In every market that you're in, there is still tremendous headroom for you to grow.
Direct is what makes us unique. Direct is what gives us the best quality of service. The tagline is the smart superhighway to move money around the world.
Welcome to today's episode of Couchonomics with Arjun. Joining me from London, or should I say beaming in from London, is Floris de Kort. Floris is the CEO of Thunes. I'm actually fortunate enough to have had two CEOs of Thunes on the show. I had Peter in season 2. But with that said, pity I couldn't have you in person, Floris, in Dubai. But, thank you for joining from London. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. And yeah, hopefully we can do this in person next time. That would be amazing.
No, sure, definitely. I think before that we should meet in person, either in London this summer, where I will be there, or if you're making any trips towards the Middle East, it would be a pleasure to sort of grab a cup of coffee with you. Floris, I'm lucky today. I have a CEO of one of the fastest growing payments players in the world on the show. So I have no option but to put you on the spot and kind of ask you, how do you see the state of the nation in payments? Because for me, every time I feel there's a lot of disruption, there's a lot more which comes around.
Yeah. I think that sums it up perfectly, right? There is a lot of disruption. There's a lot of change. Every time you think that, there is a new normal, then there's more disruption. But in the end, that's good, right? Because more disruption means more complexity. And that means more needs for companies like Thunes and others to solve for that complexity. So, I mean, lots going on in payment space, right? Cross-border payments becoming more and more real time. The rise of mobile wallets. The shift from cash to digital, moving from like the Western world to more emerging markets like Africa, Middle East, Southeast Asia. And I managed to talk for about 30 seconds without mentioning stablecoin. But yeah, the arrival of stablecoin as well, right? And becoming more and more legitimate through regulation and through just growing use. So lots going on in this space.
So, Floris, I'm going to, if you don't mind, I'm going to unpack some of these, right? And I think the first one I actually want to unpack is, let's start with the customer, because I think we all get very obsessed about form factors and technologies and so on and so forth. But, somewhere down there, the customer is who we're out there to sort of service. Classically, a lot of us make a mistake. A lot of commentators like me make a mistake. As soon as we start talking about cross-border payments, we immediately start talking about remittances. But the world is a lot wider, right? You have e-commerce, gig economy, you have B2B, right? You just mentioned there are nuances around emerging markets versus, if I may say, slightly more developed markets. So as you see the world, right, where do you see most of the change sort of emerging, and what sort of change are you seeing? And I particularly want to sort of double tap on the B2B side if possible.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, companies like Thunes originally played almost exclusively in the remittance space, right? That's where the cross-border industry kind of was very focused on in the years that are behind us. But nowadays, that's actually the minority of our volume and the minority of our revenue. We're way more focused on indeed corporates and merchants. So, the social media companies who have to pay out to influencers, insurance companies who have to pay out claims, travel companies who pay hosts or drivers. There's a lot of cross-border payments, both B2C and, as you mentioned, B2B as well. And B2B is becoming increasingly important to us. 80% of our network is now enabled for B2B. So it's absolutely an area of focus.
And is the shift more, so do you see distinct differences, or do you think that a lot of the behaviors are very homogenous?
The actual functioning of the cross-border payments is actually quite the same. I mean, ultimately, it's a payout. It's moving money from A to B. And maybe certain things are of different importance to certain types of customers, since you asked about the customer, right? When you think about remittance players, they're for obvious reasons very focused on the cost of a transaction, whereby in business payments, the quality of service and the actual arrival of the payment and knowing that a payment arrived is way more important than perhaps the cost of the transaction. Transparency is more important. Real time in business payments is actually a little bit less important. So various elements might have a different relative importance, but ultimately you're doing the same. You're moving money from A to B and you're moving it into, either onto a card or into a bank account or into a mobile wallet or nowadays into a stablecoin wallet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, fair enough. Let's take real time payments for a second, right? Every time I sort of read a LinkedIn post which is about payments, there's this sort of mantra which keeps saying real time everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. But if I do take a step back, and I think, we're seeing this play out in front of our eyes today, right? Today, yesterday, these days, the world is getting geopolitically more multipolar than it's ever been. Right. There is obviously a shift in terms of GDP. The G7 share has come down quite a lot in the last sort of 10 years, right? There is actually a decline in FDI flows, right? And there are more trade embargoes than there has ever been, right? Yeah. You have all of that. You have then, if I may use the term, regulatory disharmonization, right? Rather than harmonization. How much of the real-time mantra is actually just, and I hate this word, a North Star that we're heading towards, or actually a reality, right? So, is it just a direction of travel, or do you really think this real-time payments is really, really going to, capture the way money is going to move in the foreseeable future, next 2 to 5 years?
It's a rapidly growing direction of travel, for sure. It's clearly not the dominant form of payment. There's lots of reasons why people, even for business payments, why more and more people start focusing on real time. And, whether it's neobanks or whether it's mobile wallets, they are real time. And therefore, almost by definition, that is changing. And I think what I said earlier, like the wind in the back, is that the shift from cash to digital is actually moving from the Western world to, Africa, Middle East, Southeast Asia, where mobile wallets tend to be the dominant form of payment, right? And Visa and MasterCard have benefited a lot in the last few years of that shift in the Western world. But now that shift is favoring those new emerging real-time payment methods. So, no, the world's not there yet. You're absolutely right. But it's much more than, a pipe dream. It is happening, and it's accelerating. And to me, that's exciting.
It is. It's terribly exciting, right? So I was with, the team at UPI not too long ago, or NPCI, I should say, right? And they were talking about, obviously, NPCI, International UPI. Let's look at all these sort of forces, if I may say, colliding. You have the traditional, if I may use the word, the traditional movers of money, right? They have had the core infrastructure. A lot of fintechs have come and innovated on top of it. You've done an incredible job of also innovating on top of some of the core infrastructure, whether it's corresponding banking networks, so on and so forth, to add that transparency, acceleration, efficiency, so on and so forth. You've got this stuff brewing around CBDCs. It kind of goes hot and cold, but, wholesale CBDCs, I think, has a viable use case. I'm not so sold on the retail side, but, this is not about what I'm sold on or not. Okay. We have new tech coming in. So, you're part of that sort of cohort of players who are bringing new technologies, new infrastructure, partly borrowing from the old, partly building something new, trying to make sure that sort of evolution happens in a gradual manner and in a sensible manner, because, disruption for the sake of disruption doesn't also work. And we've all realized that in banking, because at the end of the day, we are in an incredibly regulated sector. We're talking about a sensitive topic. Sorry, it's a very long question, but let me kind of throw in a couple of things. We then have big tech walking it, right? And a lot of the supply chain is actually kind of built around these big tech players, right? And they're playing this sort of anchor nodal role. And if that's not enough, we've got, these blockchain startups, right, with stablecoins, so on and so forth. All these sort of collide together, right, or are colliding together. How do you see the competitive landscape changing? If I was to request you to just put a crystal ball in front of you, how does this all evolve?
Yeah. That was a long question. I might have an equally long answer, but let's see how we go.
Oh, let's go for it.
Let's go for it. How does this all evolve? Well, first of all, I think Thunes is the anchor point, right? We are building, or we have built actually, the infrastructure that connects all that complexity. The tagline is the smart superhighway to move money around the world.
Yep.
So we have built all those direct integrations to real-time banks, to alternative payment methods, to mobile wallets that allow us to put money in real time into all those accounts, touching over 7 billion mobile wallets and bank accounts, over 15 billion cards. And we can pay into those in real time. So what we do is we solve for that complexity, and therefore that complexity is kind of our friend, as daunting it might be to customers, right? As daunting it might be to merchants. And now you're right, with the rise of digital assets and the newer stablecoin networks, that complexity is only increasing, because now suddenly customers not just want to pay onto a card or pay onto a bank account or pay onto a wallet. Now they're suddenly wondering, how do we actually pay into all these crypto wallets as well? And what we try to do is to make all that available via one single API, one single integration, one single reporting, to make it as easy as possible for customers who don't want to have to worry about all that global complexity and, payment preferences being different across countries, and the use and adoption of stablecoin being different across geographies and so on. How is it going to change? Well, for Thunes itself, stablecoin is a massive opportunity. There's so many use cases that the challenge actually is prioritizing where we go first. Okay. The first thing we launched last year, and what we already announced, is that our customers can now pre-fund Thunes using stablecoin. So if they want to pre-fund the payouts that they want to make, they can now use stablecoin, which is a massive benefit to them, because you can do it in real time, right? You can literally top up in real time on Saturdays, on Sundays, and you no longer have to think about like, okay, it's Thursday, how much money are we going to send our payout partner to get through this whole weekend? So that's a big step forward, and making the chain more real time end to end. Similarly, we're considering about how can we pre-fund our payout partners in real time with stablecoin. Then obviously our network is expanding, because as I said earlier, in addition to paying into mobile wallets, we now also want to add the crypto wallets and stablecoin wallets to our network. So that, again, the complexity increases. And lastly, commercially, it's a really good position for us to be in, because new networks, whether it's, the likes of Circle or BVNK or Ripple, etc., ultimately what they still need, they can move stablecoin across borders, but what they still need is that last mile delivery. Like, how does this stablecoin in the end become fiat again? Mm-hmm. Because the migrant worker who lives in the United States and wants to send money home to the Philippines, for a mom who's looking after the children, yes, they might make it a lot more efficient and a lot more cost affordable by using stablecoin. But in the end, mom still wants money in her Gcash wallet to go grocery shopping. And therefore, all these companies are now, big prospects in our pipeline, or actually already existing Thunes customers for the last mile delivery. So, again, really exciting times for us. Lots happening, lots changing.
So you don't feel, so my question is, and I'll come to CBDCs or wholesale in a second, but you don't feel that players, whether it's Tether, whether it's Circle or USDC, will get into the infrastructure game themselves, where they will try and close out that last mile through, if I may say, proprietary captive relationships? You don't feel that this world will become, I guess, multi-rail like it's always been? And is then your role more interoperability, or?
Yeah. It will absolutely become multi-rail, but it won't for 100% replace what's already there. It'll just add to the complexity, and it will be more endpoints, whether it's stablecoin wallets or crypto wallets, that customers will want to have access to as well. So it's more complexity we can solve for through a single API. And until we get there, until that really starts taking off, right now, consumers actually still want that money in fiat into their Gcash or M-Pesa or into their real-time bank account.
No, I don't doubt that. Just one more thought, right, while you were speaking. So all this complexity, right, obviously flows becoming more dynamic. I'm assuming with excessive or extra competition, you start to see some margin pressures emerging, right, in the business, right, across the base. It's not just a Thunes thing as a sector. How do players then respond? Are we going to start seeing payment players layer in a lot of value-added services, which typically they were not in the game of? Do you start to see sort of emergence of ecosystems and partnerships? We saw some of that in the traditional domestic payments from the likes of Visa and MasterCard over the last decade, right? They're now not just shifting money, they're dabbling in a lot of other things. Do you see a similar sort of trend coming through?
I won't deny, I agree with you that there is margin pressure in the industry as a whole. Without going into our financials, Thunes has actually managed to kind of stay clear of that. So we haven't actually seen any margin erosion or margin pressure ourselves yet. But that is because what we discussed earlier, because the company is slowly shifting away from remittance companies who are very price sensitive to more business payments, more corporates and merchants, basically a customer base that really cares about the quality of service. We've been very focused on building all those direct connections. And the reason we build direct connections is because we fundamentally believe it gives ultimately higher success rates and higher real-time percentage rates. And by focusing on customers who care about that more than price, we have been able to prevent margin erosion. But you're right, there's absolutely margin pressure on the industry as a whole.
Now, interesting. So let's come back to stablecoins, right?
Okay.
18 months ago, none of us were talking about it, or at least majority of us were not talking about it. Maybe the few of us in the sectors were, we're starting to have conversations and seeing. Now you can't make it through a day without it, right? We've had announcements from the likes of Visa, MasterCard, Stripe, PayPal, name it, and someone or the other is either making a massive acquisition or a big partnership and so on and so forth, right? I think the regulators are getting a little bit more sort of, I guess, comfortable with the concept, right?
Yeah.
3 questions. I'll ask in one go and then you can sort of answer it. Is all this hype really worth the amount of paper and pen and ink we're wasting on it? First question. Secondly, are you actually seeing that the regulators are going to get more and more sort of comfortable with the concept of stablecoin, and so therefore stablecoin across multiple use cases, whether it is sort of the middle part or whether it's pre-funding, whether it's some other use cases, we'll sort of start to see sort of massive traction? And then my third question is, will that slow down the progress or the discussions around wholesale CBDCs, because stablecoin could sort of answer to a large extent what's really required? Because as you said, there's a lot which already exists, right? It's not like we didn't move money previously.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's a very, very difficult question, right? Because, your guess is as good as mine. And if I could predict the future, then, I probably wouldn't be working at Thunes, right?
I think you would be working at Thunes, which is why I'm the one asking the question.
One man's opinion, gut feeling. I do think it's worth the paper that it's written on. I do think it's going to take off, or it is already taking off. I think it will accelerate. Will it go as fast and will it be as big as some of these newer companies make it out to be, right? I mean, I see all their announcements about, how everything we do now, it will be completely obsolete in a year's time. That's not going to happen. Of course not. It'll exist next to each other, and it will exist next to each other for a very, very long time. And I'll be very, very curious to see, because now you're right? I just came back from Money 2020. I probably had like 80 meetings. I don't think there was a single one that didn't touch on stablecoin. And a year and a half ago, we weren't talking about it. So, it is going incredibly fast in that regard. But, I'd be very interesting to see when, Thunes, in September or October of this year takes live pay to stablecoin wallet and pay to crypto wallet. And makes that available to our entire existing customer base. I'd be very interesting to see 6 months later, 12 months later, how many actual volume is going through it. Like that for me, I'll be watching with interest. Because right now, if you have to believe certain people, it will be massive, right? I think it's going to take time. I think it's going to take serious time to start growing and to start ramping up. And another way to think about that is like, the cross-border payment space we operate in is $150 trillion industry. Last time I checked, which was a few days ago, there's 345 billion stablecoins in circulation. That's like less than 0.1% of the industry of cross-border payments. So it is still relatively small compared to what cross-border payments needs. But I'll be watching those numbers with interest as well.
Where does CBDCs fit into all of this, or wholesale CBDCs?
Well, I think you were right in your early assessment. Like, again, it's tough to predict, but I do think this is going to slow it down, right? This trend must slow it down because it's solving for it already. And then the last part of your question, sorry, I forgot, was the regulatory side of it. I welcome that. It is time that there is more regulation. It is time that the regulators start thinking about stablecoin like they think about the same way they think about any regular currency, the same way they think about how they regulate money movement with money remittance licenses and cross-border payments. And we welcome that because it will level the playing field. And it will mean that everyone that operates in this space will have to operate under the same set of rules. And yeah, so I welcome that tremendously. And I see it happening. You're right. And it's also good because regulation gives it credibility. Regulation will probably also actually help accelerate. I don't think regulation will slow down. I think regulation will give credibility, and credibility will lead to further acceleration. That's just my personal opinion.
No, I think so. So I think there is enough empirical evidence to suggest that, as regulation comes, legitimization comes, the bigger players get more comfortable with it. And so therefore they're willing to dabble, right? Here's my assertion. And again, I don't have empirical evidence, but, I've seen it enough times that I guess, blame my ears behind it. Where we start to see more compliance and regulation come in, right? Somewhere down that inclusivity, that inclusion thing then starts to suffer. Right. And I'm not going to get into, I think you kind of get my view on this. So my question here is if everything starts to reflect like what the old systems did, which were, heavily regulated and massively compliant, do we sort of fall back into the same trap that we've had with our incumbent systems, right? Because let's be honest, when they came, they were revolutionary, right? How do we balance this innovation regulation angle? And I think you guys have a very tough job. Yeah,
well, yes and no, right? I mean, you've interviewed the founder of Thunes, Peter de Kort. You've had him on your show, and Peter installed in Thunes from the very first day that he started the company the DNA that we need to have the compliance standard of a bank. So we only operate in the white space. We're fully licensed. We're fully regulated. We just announced we are now licensed in all 50 US states with a licensing regime. So this is actually incredibly important to us because we feel that it actually adds value for us and value for our customers by having compliance as one of the things that sets us apart because we do it incredibly well. Which is again why I welcome regulation of the stablecoin space as well. I don't think it will become like, the old systems that were super cool and super new 20, 30 years ago, because it is what the systems do that makes the difference. The old systems weren't real time. It took 3-4 days to make a payment. It was closed on Saturdays, Sundays, bank holidays. It was way more costly to operate, right? I mean, there's a reason that, a wire transfer with Swift costs $10, $15. This is a fraction of the cost. The success rates will be higher. The issue resolution will be easier. So yeah, I don't think regulation will, put us in the same trap, as you called it, as what happened with the old systems, because the whole process behind it is different.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think also the DNA of the innovators is different. I think 10, 15, 20 years ago, I don't think we had so much disruption coming from so many different directions, right? And I think if I give the regulator its due, I think over the years, they've become more market makers themselves, right? I use examples of India and Brazil as two great examples where, a lot of the movement of money and, creating the velocity and volume has actually been a function of that. Let's switch the topic. Let's talk a little bit about Thunes. You obviously alluded to a very interesting decision. So I'm going to frame this question in two parts, right? I think, about a month or so ago, maybe a bit longer, you closed a significant round. I think it was $150 million Series D, right? That's a lot of capital injected into the business, right? You also sort of, as you just alluded to or suggested, that you now have, regulatory approval to operate across sort of 50 states in the US. I think twofold question. One is, so what is the next avatar of Thunes, right, going to look like? And the second question in this is, the US is in one end ready for disruption because, let's be honest, the payment systems in the US are archaic, right? But at the same time, they have a lot of homegrown systems, homegrown players, right? So the competitive environment, in my humble view, from the outside, not knowing the US market, feels a lot harder, right? It's not like an emerging market, which is where if I may say, Thunes cut its teeth, right?
Yeah, true.
So what's the next sort of chapter with these two significant decisions or news items?
Yeah, the next chapter, I think if you look at the next 2-3 years for Thunes, honestly, it's going to be relentless focused on just organically growing the company. We're very fortunate that, our top line growth is accelerating. We're now about 150 million run rate revenue. By the end of next year, that's probably easily going to be 250 million. We crossed the break-even line in Q4 last year. So we're now, for the first time, we're now profitable, which is really, really helpful. So our Series D fundraise is frankly, as long as we keep growing our EBITDA margin, is our last fundraise, right? Unless we want to raise for a specific purpose, like, M&A or something like that. But parking that for a second, this should be our last fundraise because we're now generating our own cash. And we went out for this fundraise in a really tough climate, right? It's really hard to raise funds right now, unless you're in AI, of course, then you can raise for anything you want. But it's a tough time to raise funds.
What was that AI to your business?
Exactly. Well, we have a few areas where we're actually using AI. Maybe we can speak about that later. So it's a tough time to raise funds, but there was a lot of interest. There really was a surprising lot of interest. We could have raised more than 150 million. Especially one of the two investors that we joined wanted to write a larger check. So, but there's only so much that existing shareholders obviously want to water down as well. And the 150 million for us was the perfect amount because it gives us the strong balance sheet that we need for regulators, for auditors, etc. And it also gives us the liquidity that we need to make select very targeted investments in the company without obviously dropping below that line of break even again. Like we now don't want to start massive spending spree and become a loss-making company again. We're very focused on growing our EBITDA margin. So some of the investment dollars are indeed going to the US, where we're now bringing in additional headcount because under our licenses, there's now a lot more we can do in the US. We can now sell our Accept product. We can sell our Pay product directly to US companies. We can contract with them in the US. They can fund us domestically in the US in a US bank account. So our sales team has been unshackled. So we're adding not just more salespeople, but we're adding basically everything that you need to take really good care of a customer. That's salespeople, that is boarding people, that's customer service people, that is account managers, everything you need to take really good care of a customer, and the support obviously around that in the form of HR and so on. We're opening our second site in Atlanta on the East Coast. So we'll be San Francisco, Atlanta, which is another big step forward for us. And the team is going to focus relentlessly on leveraging what we can now do under those licenses, which is signing up corporates and merchants, whether it's the travel companies or the insurance companies or the social media companies. Anyone with cross-border payments can now in the United States can now become a Thunes customer. And some of the fundraised money will be used to accelerate that.
No, so this is very interesting. But Floris, if I just take a step back, right? I think US is the big market in a lot of ways, right? But it's also a very unique market. So if I just sort of ask the question, if I go back to the management room which we were chairing and sort of having these discussions, saying the US, because in every market that you're in, there is still tremendous headroom for you to grow, right? And you have been growing, as you suggested, right? What drove the US? Just the size of the opportunity? Because the truth is that the cross-border flows are slightly different and unique, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
So that's it. Is it your customers who basically said, Floris, you need to get there? That's where it's important to us. Because at the end of the day, you have finite amount of resources and people and talent and capabilities. I've lived and studied in the US, and so I understand the US a little bit. I'm not an expert in it, but so what was the thinking which went on in the boardroom in the management team?
Yeah, I think what you have to distinguish there is the difference between where is the commercial opportunity and where, from a network and money flow perspective, as you yourself said earlier, is Thunes traditionally very strong, which is, as you said, Africa, Middle East, Southeast Asia, etc. And there are many, many, many large companies, large global companies, who struggle with their cross-border payments and their payout solutions in those markets, Africa, Middle East, Southeast Asia, but that are ultimately making their decisions as to who they partner with or who they work with from the US. So when I talk about the US, I first and foremost talk about where's the customer and where do we contract with the customer. But for most of our US customers, safe to say, the money flows, where we're sending money to, where we're processing payments and so on, it's obviously not the domestic US market, right? It's in most cases not even Europe. It's across Africa, it's Southeast Asia, it's the Middle East, it's Northeast Asia. So I think you need to distinguish these two. If you think about our market entry in the US, it's a commercial market entry, but it doesn't change where does the money flow that we actually process.
So one side of the anchoring is there, right? So you're basically saying I have one side of the anchoring, and I think that kind of makes the right sense, rather than actually sort of go out there and say, we will just purely go for the commercial opportunity blindly. I do. It leads to a couple of questions, right? I think you brought out these, if I may say, there are lots of exotic corridors that you're in, right? And I use the word exotic. I don't have a better word. I shouldn't. It's not a negative word. It's just exotic corridors, right? Two questions for you. A lot of these exotic corridors have very exotic compliance requirements, right? Or multiple requirements. And, Africa is a very interesting case study. People treat Africa as one, it's 54 countries, if not more. I've lost count, right? And I don't know of many pan-African regulations which are sort of taking traction, right?
Don't exist.
Right. So, you have all this regulation that you have to sort of comply to, right? And if your customers want you to go to a particular corridor, I guess you have to do it if they're large customers, and I'm not saying you're forced, but you're definitely encouraged. Then you also have a lot of exotic partnerships that you have to tie up, and I worked with a few of them, and they do turn out to be quite exotic, right? Who themselves are feeling very disrupted. They're feeling quite vulnerable. They're worried about, whether they're facing existential threat and so on and so forth, right? So how do you navigate all of this, right? From an operating model perspective, is the intention going to be that you are going to start owning the entire network more and more, or is it going to be building out lots and lots of relationships, and so therefore keeping yourself, I guess, somewhere in the middle, but staying away from the last mile?
Yeah, no, we own the network. We are the network, and we only go direct, or at least that's the strategy, to go direct wherever we can, unless regulation specifically forbids us to go direct to the endpoint, right? But direct is what makes us unique. Direct is what gives us the best quality of service. So we absolutely are the network. And you're right? I mean, in the exotics markets where we operate, compliance is the challenge. And therefore also, if we get it right, something that can really set us apart. So regulatory and compliance is actually by percentage the largest part of my organization, the largest team. Because markets in Africa, Middle East, Southeast Asia are so fragmented, and every country there, like you said, there is no pan-African regulation. Every country has their own rules, regulations, and ways of operating. And we need to know all that, and we need to be on top of that, and we need to capture every single change so that we don't run afoul of a change that we missed. And yeah, it's fragmented. I mean, in some countries of Africa, we can just operate. In other countries in Africa, you need a formal license. In other countries, there's no formal license, but you need a non-objection letter, as it's called, from the government. And then yet again, in other markets, you need to get specific deals approved by the government. So for every deal, you need to go to someone's desk to rubber stamp it. So you need to be in that game, and you need to understand what you need to do where, and keep track of everything that changes. So yeah, it is the largest part of my company, percentage-wise, something we invest heavily in. And something, touch wood, that nowhere in the world we have ever yet run afoul of, and long may that last. That's probably my number one priority, actually.
And in my humble view, that's where the moat gets formed, right? That's where the moat gets formed, because at the end of the day, if you have, you've got to solve for the lowest common denominator in this case, right? And that's kind of the challenge, which a lot of the large players don't answer.
And then, sorry to interrupt, but then if you go back to the US, if you think about, companies like Uber or Meta, etc., they pay so many drivers across all these countries in Africa, across all these markets in Southeast Asia, like India, Pakistan, etc. Mm-hmm. But where are those decisions being made as to how they do those payouts? Those decisions are being made, well, in the case of Uber, either in San Francisco or Amsterdam, right? And in the case of Meta in California. So that's the difference that I was alluding to in terms of where do we focus, like where do we have a commercial focus and where actually does the money flow? And the money flows in all these complex, exotic markets that we're solving for.
Excellent. No, so this is great. So then comes the question around, productivity at scale. We alluded to AI for a little bit. So in terms of your operating model, right? And I assume everything you do for yourself is at the end of the day going to translate in better service to the customer. So how are you using some of these new technologies to sort of get better yourself, right?
I think the first advantage that we have there is that all our systems already, before the rise even of AI, are proprietary and in-house. We use our own systems. So whether it's our processing platform, it's in-house. Whether it's all our treasury systems, they're built in-house, they're in-house. Whether it's our forecasting tool, very important for what we do, liquidity forecasting. Again, it's our own system, it's proprietary, it's in-house. And what we have been doing with success in certain areas is leveraging AI in further enhancing these systems. For example, let's take liquidity forecasting. We need to forecast 2-3 days out how much liquidity are we going to need in each corridor to have enough to keep processing whatever volume our customers are going to send us. So somehow we need to analyze based on historical data, things we know about our customers, patterns, bank holidays, big events like Chinese New Year and so on. What is going to happen with volume, where it's going to spike, where it's going to be how much. AI is playing a tremendous role in making those forecasts a lot more accurate. And it's important for us that they're accurate because if, touch wood, may it never happen, we underfund the corridor, then obviously we can't process payouts. Mm-hmm. But if we overfund the corridor, then we have FX exposure on funds, and that exposure is ours, not our customers. So AI is playing a tremendous role already, and it's getting better every month in helping us build out that liquidity forecasting tool. And in addition, we're looking at what everyone's looking at, right? How can we leverage AI in customer services? How can we leverage AI in engineering, in coding? So we're looking at various other implementations of AI as well.
And because you've built this, I guess this infrastructure is proprietary, in my humble view, you can take AI into what I call the foundational layer a lot more easily than actually being dependent. Because I think, my day job is one of a management consultant. I tend to sort of focus on this. And I think this is where I'm actually seeing a number of the incumbent financial services struggle, is that even if they want to introduce AI, they're being sort of restricted to the peripheries, because until and unless the infrastructure provider itself can reinvent itself or reinvent the process using AI, you're really not getting the bang for buck.
They either depend on an infrastructure provider, or in the case of banks, they're sitting on technology from the 1970s or 1980s, right? I mean, good luck implementing AI in that.
Yeah. Well, thank God for that. It keeps us consultants in a job.
Exactly. Yeah, good point. Yeah.
No, I shouldn't say that. But no, you're correct. I think we have massive issues here, on-prem systems. The concept of cloud doesn't exist. Forget agile or any other way of working. I think, I keep saying that before we fix AI, we got to fix the culture, right? And then we'll come into it. Floris, I'm going to pull you into my region. I'm obviously coming in from the Middle East, right? I'm also cognizant that, we have only 3 or 4 minutes left. What's the focus in this region? Middle East has been a very key part of the Thunes story. That's where I actually met you guys too. You have some wonderful people here. I'm not giving them a shout out here or anything like that. But what's the plan for the Middle East or the MENA region, if I may take it more broadly?
Well, we'll make sure one of them comes on your show someday soon. You know who. That said, we've been speaking a lot about the US just because we got those licenses, but we are actually right now, today in 2025, if I look at Thunes and our geographical, spread, our fastest growing region actually is the Middle East this year.
Yep.
Thunes is really accelerating our revenue growth in the Middle East, our volume growth in the Middle East as well. we are investing quite heavily in our site in Dubai. So we have 6 main sites now where we're adding our headcounts and where we're recruiting. Dubai is one of them. So Thunes is growing quite significantly there. And we've recently announced some significant wins in specifically Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia right now is flying some of the mobile wallets that have just been launched there, like D360, Tickmo, and so on. I mean, it's in the media, so I can talk about it. But for us this year, actually, it is all about the Middle East, and we have some great partnerships. We're really grateful for the support, and it's taken years, right? It's not that you walk into Saudi Arabia and you have a customer. It's taken years of setting up our local presence, hiring local people, building the local relationships, building the local network. And it's this year that's paying off, and it's exponential growth, which is really exciting.
No, and I think you just kind of hit the nail on the head, right? A lot of people here don't understand that the GCC is not, again, as I say, a homogenous sort of set, right? As you said, each country has to be invested in uniquely and acutely with the right people, with the right talent, with the right sort of regulations, the right infrastructure. Different countries, forget different countries. You have Emirates within the same countries which operate at a different spectrum. I think what's very positive is that although, traditionally this region has been known for its B2C or C2C cross-border remittance, we're starting to now actually see the B2B flows, right? As our supply chains become a little bit more global, right? As there's greater sort of e-commerce, I think it's the B2B side is what I get really excited about. And then obviously we've seen the graduation of sort of the wallets.
Yeah.
Right. And
the wallets are just ballooning suddenly. And that's obviously very, very good news for us. And you're right. Just like Africa, every country is very, very different. And, you know all this better than I do. You can't be successful in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia by flying in and out from Dubai. You need to be local. And the same goes for the UAE. And we're now looking at Qatar for the same reasons. Like, you need to be local to be successful. And, we get that, and we're building that local presence, and we're hiring local people to, and we take the time. We know it takes 2 to 3 years to build the relationships. You don't walk in and win a deal and have volume the next day. It takes years, especially in countries where relationship building and personal relationships are actually key to deal making.
Yep, and it's super essential here. I think, Floris, let's close this out. I know you have to be in another meeting at the top of the hour, which we're rapidly approaching, and I think it's only right that we should end at the Middle East. I've seen your growth over the last 3 to 4 years firsthand, and it's been very, very impressive, and long may it continue. I think the US story is going to be fascinating to watch. I will make sure that I continue to watch from the sidelines, and we hope to see you in person, either in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar. I'm usually in these 3 countries every week, so either here or in some other part of the world. I appreciate you making time and coming on the show.
We'll be back soon, and I will keep you posted on my schedule. Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Floris. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was Floris de Kort, who is the CEO of Thunes. Interesting stories. He's operating over more markets than I can actually count. That itself comes with a challenge. I love the fact that, we finally found the first speaker on this season who said my moat could be my compliance capability, which I think increasingly is critical as we move to this world where, data and information flows more freely than it's ever done. With that, I say goodbye till next week. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.